Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner Davis.
Good evening, and we are live. I'm your host, Ed McQueen, of course. Our co-host, Miss April Garner Davis. Good to see you, as always. And
see you too.
And welcome everyone to our program this evening. April, along the education line, we're going to go local tonight. I know we're going worldwide by way of Facebook and the website and all that good stuff. Something is local that's I think in need of conversing over, and we're going to make that a good topic for discussion. Maybe we can get some good input from some of our viewers regarding this issue, and that is our need for what kind of requirements are we going to be asking for in a new school superintendent for Horry County. So, having said that, I think you have the lowdown on our guests and all of the pertinent issues that I think our audience will probably want to be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's on you.
So welcome everyone. We have a great guest tonight, Dave Wilson of Wilson Consulting Services, and he's going to share some evidence-based information related to performance in our schools, and we'll talk about some of the issues or challenges that we typically face in our school district and probably in school districts all over the country, but particularly, like Brother Edward said, we're going to focus on Horry County tonight because they're in search of a new school superintendent. So the Horry County Board of Education is currently conducting a search for a new superintendent to lead Horry County schools, and they have contracted with an independent search firm. It's a superintendent search firm, as a matter of fact, BWP and Associates, and they will conduct a series of community forums to gather input and ideas from students, staff, parents, the entire community. And these forums will be held on September 24th, 25th, and 26th from 6 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. Everyone is encouraged to attend. There's no RSVP according to the Horry County Schools website. And this is a grand opportunity for anyone who is interested in the future of Horry County schools and the direction of Horry County schools to really get involved in this process. And so our goal tonight is to talk about some of the important issues that should be of concern to community members, especially parents. And it's great that they've invited students, because sometimes that's the voice that we do not hear when it comes down to things like this. And whenever we have the opportunity to talk about the things that concern us most when it comes to our education, particularly our students' educations, we should take advantage of those opportunities as much as possible. So before we get started, I'm going to actually post in the chat thread the information from the Horry County Schools Facebook page, and it's about the community forums and lists the superintendent search firm, BWP and Associates. So you can do your research on that as well. But there is a link if you'd like more information. No RSVP is required, but they do provide some information about this actual forum. And joining us tonight, once again, is Dave Wilson. And so I'm going to bring Mr. Wilson on. Mr. Dave, can I call you Dave? Mr. Wilson.
That's fine. Dave Wilson.
Okay. Bringing on Dave Wilson with us tonight. I even, if it wasn't for calling Mr. McQueen Brother Edward, I would probably call him Mr. Edward as well. That's just, how we were raised. And I was asked a long time ago by Sister Joella to call him Brother Edward. So that's where that came from. But thank you for joining us tonight. And this is really important. This is right up there with, voting in your next election when you really think about it. And be that, local, state, or national election, the community has the opportunity to give input on what they want in the next school superintendent. And so it's really important for people to understand like what's at stake and, what's happened over the past 10 or 15 years or so, or even longer when it comes down to trends in education in South Carolina, Horry County as well. And so before we get started with the actual conversation, Dave, why don't you give everyone a little bit of information about your background, your profile?
Okay, my profile is sort of be short here. I'm a retired engineer from IBM and both General Electric. I studied electrical engineering and I taught part-time as an adjunct faculty in mathematics and statistics for about 25 years. And upon retirement from regular work, I moved to Horry County, which is my home, by the way. I graduated from Chestnut Consolidated High School over in the Little River, North Myrtle Beach area. And one thing that kind of made me start looking at a lot of the test scores of performance in Horry County. I taught as a substitute teacher for 2 years back in 2007, 8, 8, 9. And then I started teaching over at Horry Tech part-time. But my experience with Horry County schools has been that the biggest problem that I noticed, particularly with Black American students, were behavior problems. And I look at the performance and the behavior, and I don't think they are definitely not mutually exclusive. They feed into one another. And I think the behavior problem also affects, even though the student is behaving, but it affects, if the student is disturbing the class, it affects the other students. Now, I have been tracking and publishing and sending out tons of papers on the performance of Horry County students, the larger groups, in particular Hispanic, white, and Black students. And I noticed across the years, consistently from 2007 or 6, when I did my first report, the Black students were at the bottom all the way through performers. Sometimes the Hispanics themselves were performing like 20-25% higher than African American students, even in the language portion, which is not their native language, but more so now because a lot of those students are born here. And what I noticed even recently for 2024, if we go back to pre-pandemic, everybody dropped in pre-pandemic, and as a result of that, they're starting to come back. And one of the things that captured my attention is that the ELA from grades 3 through 8, they have completely recovered in Horry County from the pandemic, but the math is way, way down, still lagging, and there's a huge disparity between the math and the ELA. And that's one of the type questions that I don't know if the school, they must be looking at it because the other one didn't come back, but one came back very, very fast. And why is that disparity? Both of those are foundational courses, or foundational knowledge. And keep in mind, this is from the SC Ready exams, or tests. And these are not standardized tests. These are tests that measure what a student should know or have accomplished by a certain grade. And all this information is posted on the South Carolina Department of Education website on what your child, if your child is in the 5th grade, what should they be covering. So it measures all of that, not some standardized tests. And so what I am concerned about, again, is performance from my experience with it, and the behavior, that they are, the behavior are depressing the performance. And also we need more parental involvement. So one big question that we should ask the incoming new superintendent, what type of things that he or she might have in mind to get more Black parents involved with the school and their students in terms of their children, in terms of trying to help improve, because I haven't seen any real improvement. It's just the same old every year after year. As the Hispanics increases a little bit, we just pretty much stay flat. And I don't mean they just harp on one race, but it's the group that are constantly behind. And also, it is tied in with poverty. That is consistent throughout the nation. If you do any statistical studies on students who are living in poverty, they tend to perform lower. But I think there's a lot more mitigation uh, factors that affected that, because I was poor as they make 'em growing up, and I still was able to do okay. So we need to, what can we do, and not just label someone living in poverty and not expect much from them, and therefore that become a self-fulfilling prophecy right there. So the ideal is, how will a new superintendent be able to look at the performance of all groups, of course, but the particular ones that are falling behind, and then bringing the parents involved, getting parents involved with it, and the community, and leaders, community leaders involved with the school.
I think that, of course, you pinpointed parental involvement and behavior as two of the major concerns, because, it's true that sometimes there is a lack of parental involvement, especially during times when it really matters. And, the lack of parental involvement could be rooted in a number of different factors. We have to extend some grace to parents, especially those who are working. And, it could be that they're working during the hours when, it's tough to access teachers or administrators. And so, I know over the years that there's always been discussions about the importance of parents showing up at parent teacher conferences. And if you can't show up at a parent teacher conference, make some type of connection with the teachers or administrators to find out how your child is performing, especially if there's evidence that they're missing something in school, or that they're not thriving the way that they should. And so, this lack of parental involvement, it definitely does have multiple layers, and it also creates a domino effect in that if the parents are not completely engaged in what's happening in the child's education and in the entire educational process, then other factors can slide in that really can become bigger problems for the student as they try to make it through grade school. And so another factor that we talked about that I'd like for you to lean into, Dave, is poverty levels, and how, and you kind of touched on that a little bit, but as we think about the fact that there are many underserved, underrepresented, or marginalized communities that lack access to resources, even resources that are rooted in assistance with literacy and access to the internet, any type of resource that aids in the educational process, it really does cut into the ability for a student to get a proper education, and even sometimes for these parents to even be able to cut through some of the clutter and the challenges that they have with assisting their children through the educational process. So talk a little bit more about that piece of it, and are there things that we can do in our community to ensure that we're supporting education as much as possible? Because, even with the next superintendent, it's going to take a village. And so, part of attending these forums is letting a superintendent know what's needed in the community, and how, we can all work together to ensure student success. So can you lean a little bit more into, even the poverty level situation?
You talking to me?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. One of the things that I've observed also with that level, there are what we call God-fearing people raising a lot of these kids, and they don't have very much resources, but they still don't show that real passion to get involved with their child's education. Some observe some parents, they kind of figure that if I make sure my child is on the school bus and go off to school, I can kind of do this, and I'm going to get this nice little bow bag with a wrapped up, nice, well-disciplined, well-educated child. But I find that aside from parents who might not be paying much attention, but some of these God-fearing parents, they still don't encourage or talk about education. I wrote a paper, I don't know, maybe several years ago to some suggested questions. Just ask your kid every day they come home from school, what did you do today in school? Give them a couple of things that you learn in school. It makes them start to think, and they figure that well, somebody cares about them. I have been to not to expose anybody, but to large family gatherings, and I'll meet grandnieces and nephews, and I'll ask them a question about school. What courses are you taking? They kind of look at me like I'm crazy because who's this man asking me these type questions? Because no adult ever outside of the school, a teacher, will ask them about their courses or what did you learn? Name two things you learned today. Things like that. Those will start to get a child to feel more motivated that someone care. So that's another area in the other words, there's a limitation on what a superintendent can do. A lot of the, if they can extend some sort of an olive branch, and we as a community can catch on to that and start to get involved with our children, not make it feel like we are just kind of out here, but we are stakeholders and that. And that's something that a new person coming in could come up with some storm brain and come up with some ideas. How do we reach the community? Maybe go out and visit a church. When I was growing up, we had teachers was often principal, others would come and visit the church. And boy, that felt good. You got this person caring for me. This is a teacher, a principal, superintendent, whatever. They could do some things like that as part of a teaching staff. Just volunteer, or you would encourage your staff to attend a church in the one Sunday. Well, many different people are going to different churches. That also make people, parents who are reluctant to engage before the child get in trouble. So many times parents don't engage with a teacher until the kid is in trouble or something. So that's the type of person, a type of question I would want to challenge the incoming person. What are they going to do to do they have any ideas of doing something to pull the black community in and make them feel welcome? And you'd be surprised how their response might be.
Yeah. I think I would even take it a step further and challenge the next school superintendent or the search firm to inquire about the superintendent's willingness to go into the communities. Mm-hmm. And I know you talk about, visiting the churches, but the reality is that everyone does not go to church.
True.
And as we see, the trends post-COVID, actually church bodies are still very thin and congregations are still very light on youth attendance in the churches. So, but if a superintendent is visible in communities, really going around to see what these communities look like, what resources are available, are these communities close to food resources? Because communities that are in food deserts, we talked about that yesterday, a hungry child is not a thriving child. And so, maybe a superintendent who's going about these communities, walking through these communities, riding through these communities, talking to people where they are, will be enlightened on what's truly missing in the communities and what could possibly be done from the standpoint of the school district to help fill those gaps as much as possible. There's a question in the chat, and the question is, will more male teachers help, along with teachers who can convey their curriculum to the multiple student attitudes? So, just some thoughts, some candid thoughts. Brother Edward, I'm sure that you've had conversations with educators as well about this dynamic of male teachers in the classroom. Do you think that having more male teachers, and it's particularly male teachers of color in the classroom, would help some of the situations?
Absolutely. I certainly believe that. And just looking at the data, it probably would definitely help. One thing I don't do it now, but early on when I moved down, I used to go out to some of the schools and speak to the students. And one thing I observed with some of the, particularly the black male, kind of partial to those guys. They seem to be kind of thrown away out there. They have a hunger for knowledge, but they don't know how to quite display. So they may even start acting out because nobody's meeting their hunger. So that is how, I don't know how, not a teacher, how to reach that, but that's something I observed with these young black males. They're hungry, but they will act out if you're not paying any attention to them. But they're hungry
Yeah,
for knowledge.
yeah, I agree with that. I've seen that too, wholeheartedly. Well, thank you for the information regarding the church's involvement, Mr. Wilson or Dave. One thing I thought that a superintendent would be good for a superintendent to at least explore, and that is addressing the or seeing if this is an issue, the excess of bringing smartphones to school. Okay, that I read it somewhere that was in, I believe it was North Carolina, Charlotte area. I think it's what I read it. That that seemed to have some impact on at least getting attention from the students when they eliminated the freedom of bringing their smartphones to class or to school. Period. Okay, and they collect them at the door every morning when they're coming in. I'm saying I don't know who can kind of give this, who can present this information to the candidate for the superintendent, but I think that would be a good subject for the candidate to explore or see what his or her willingness to do that. And that was only one situation I saw, by the way. So, and having said that, that's, to me, that's like competition that's there with learning versus new technology that's coming in. New technology is fascinating for any young person, okay? And sometimes they will prioritize and seem to bend towards that before they start doing their ABCs, okay? I'm just saying reading, writing, arithmetic, or whatever. From what I've seen, there's just a couple of occasions. And getting back to the church attendance, I agree with April that the attendance is, is diminishing, especially with young people. The young people. However, that could. What do you think about a collaboration there of the church and the superintendent to devise something to make it more amenable or make it more attractable for young people? Now that could be a plus on a double-edged sword there. The church could get more attendance, and at the same time, the educational issue or with the superintendent could be addressed at the same time. Also, I think I'm looking at potentially a great impact there if they make it attractive enough. I don't know what to say, what this attraction could be. I don't know what method they could use, but it seems to me like it's going to sound like it's going to be something radical. Maybe have some monetary issue, a monetary involved, or something. We're looking at a different generation here now, so they want to be compensated, even though they don't know that they're being compensated already by having free schooling. Okay, but yeah, so those are some of the things that I thought would be enough to explore for the new superintendent.
So, Brother Everett, I have to say, you kind of lost me on the compensation piece. What do you mean when you were talking about who would be compensated?
Probably for lack of a better word, I'm saying start dealing with compensation for young people in with collaboration of the church and the superintendent's methods or in the school system. Okay, let them know that they're working for something. Maybe it could be in the form of an after-school job or something, and the church could be involved, and so forth. And it may involve funds from some budget, but or I wouldn't just put it on the table. Wouldn't take it off of the table. I think that's something that should be on the table.
Yeah, I would take that what you just said, not a step further, but one thing I kind of go back to my own learning. If somebody can convince me, I'm 14, that if I do X, Y, and Z, I will be able to make money down the road. Okay, I don't. Sometimes that can be an incentive. You can really, really show them. Now, I came from industry as I was doing the substitute teaching, and I would talk with the students about how I grew up and how you will be like me one day. Not that I was, but I made a good living. And you can do the same thing, but you got to do all these things first. Okay, you want to have compensation if someone is going to do, in my opinion, work, some physical work, like scrubbing the floors or whatever. But if they're going to learn, if they're going to focus on the value of the learning, or they're going to put their effort based on the dollar they're going to get at the end of the day. So those things I would think you always have to be careful with, unless the child is performing some sort of a work activity. I don't know. I haven't seen any real evidence to data that paying students to participate in education activities really improve. I don't know. I haven't seen any major research. You may have, April, you guys, any of you.
I've never heard of it. Yeah, not anything like that. But what I'd like for us to do, though, is to kind of get back on track. Because our question is, what does Horry County need in its next school superintendent? And we were trying to make sure that we brought to light some of the performance challenges, and of course you touched upon behavioral challenges and other things. So I'd like for you to share, Dave, some of the data that you have in terms of student performance. And then we can kind of talk about, what that picture looks like, because certainly the school superintendent needs to make sure that our students aren't, consistently in the bottom or at the bottom of performance measures or values, and that there are some strategies in place, or will be some strategies in place, to make sure that we are getting them out of what appears to be a very tight situation with their performance level. So what does the latest data show us when it comes to student performance?
It shows us the same thing. For example, all the students dropped pre-COVID, during COVID. And what I did with some studies, I did it last year, and I took a cursory look at the 2024, and I looked at data of all the students before the pandemic, and then post-pandemic, which is all the way out to 2024. And I noticed in Horry County, the Black students were 22% down below pre-COVID days, but they recovered completely. Up, I think right now the Black students are 27% higher than they were before COVID, but they haven't recovered in the math area. Most of the groups did not recover. But again, even though they are recovered, what I mean by recovered, they got back to where they were before. Mm-hmm. Even though they weren't doing that well before COVID, but they had dropped way below that. But now they are, with English, they are back up to what I call the post-COVID level. And but again, what I see with all these data over the many years, it doesn't change much. But again, it goes back to what you just said. What we are talking about with the discussion is getting, how do we change that dynamic, that trend. And we talked about the parental environment, which affect the farmers, and getting the students to more involved with it. But I think the parents is a big plus, because you can look around yourself in communities and look at certain parents who are really engaged, and their children might not be A students, but they're doing well. Okay, and which means that can make the difference. You may have a neighbor. I've seen neighbors next door kids that are not doing as well because the parents are not. They're not doing anything bad or anything. They're just not engaged. And I'm just this big one on engage. And how do we get parents to do that? Parents will do that. The ones that are reluctant to, if they can get more somehow involved with into the school system as a stakeholder. That's what I see. So the data is pretty much consistent. And if I look at a large school system like Charleston, which is equivalent to ours, of course, it's about the same. It's across the board. I could go down to Mississippi, look at data there, and I'm going to see the same thing. So it's not what what's happening in Horry County any major different from what is happening in the states and other states.
Do you have any data or any insights on the impact of the teacher shortage? And there's a lot going on right now in that arena in terms of the teacher shortage as it relates to the inability to pay teachers well and to provide appropriate resources for teachers. People just aren't entering the education arena as far as public education like they used to. And I know that the state is trying to do more in terms of raising wages and all of that. But at the district level, I would think that that would be a proper question for the superintendent. Is like, what is your strategy to attract more teachers? So is there any information or insights you can give us on that?
Yeah, I haven't done a study recently on teachers, but it's a problem nationwide. They're simply not entering the pipeline. I looked at the baccalaureate, people graduating, that's where the bulk of the teachers come from. People graduating with a baccalaureate degree in education. And that is really, really down. And when you look at the black teachers entering the market in education, it is down even further. So I know we talk about getting more black teachers in the classroom and more teachers, but they don't exist. That is something that superintendents and others at the state level would have to figure that out. How to get people with baccalaureate degrees do not have a degree in education and get them accelerated into being certified. Right now, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought that. I don't really interrupt you, but I thought that was a pretty good program that's been going on for a long time, and that is, I don't know if it stopped. That is that you encourage youth to go into education, but you promise them that upon completion or getting a bachelor's degree, that they don't have to pay back their tuition or whatever for a long time as an incentive for them to go into teaching. Is there a program out there like that?
I think so. I know there's a program like that in the medical community where your loan is exempted completely, particularly if you teach in more of a poor type of community, or a community that is not more of a resources. You do have that, and I heard. I don't think that's been really organized and passed by any Congress. That's something that's being thought about, is to exempt students from having to pay the student loans, in particularly back if they go into teaching. And normally, when you do that, and they can't expect that person might want to spend a lifetime, but typically like 5 or 10 years. If you teach,
Yeah.
then your loan is forgiveness. I have heard some rumors about that might be a way to get more people into it. Now, I don't think even that is so much of the pay. I think what is happening is teachers are really if they have a bad name, not the teacher, but the work environment, what they have to deal with, and students
Politics.
just are turned off. With all the talks that I've had with students across the years, I may have come across one or two that say they want to be a teacher when they grow up. It's just you just don't. They want to be everything under the sun except a teacher.
Well, there was a time when there weren't other opportunities out there for, especially blacks.
Hmm.
Okay, but now they hear about so many before they start getting a degree that and teaching is, way on the back burner, so to speak,
Yeah,
because
it's the teacher. The pay is no, it's not the greatest, but you can make a pretty good. You can make a
oh
living.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, and you can do things additional type of consultant work, whatever. But I think there's something with the words that get out about teaching. The what they have to endure with. And I gotta see when I first moved down to give myself my own example. They have the alternate teachers program. The state of South Carolina, a lot of states have it for people with baccalaureate degrees. They can start teaching. I was offered jobs in Horry County full time at 3 different schools to teach math, and I moved down because I was encountered with the people by my substituted. And but I, after the substitution, I didn't feel like I wanted to do that full time, so I did not pursue the alternate route where you just take some educational courses part time and you get certified. So you have that type of thought. Now, there's some other things that, well, this is kind of beyond what we're talking about, but I think a lot of the ex-military people would be good for if they could recruit heavily in that area. In other words, they already have a pension, and so the low pay is not, or the less than some of the higher pay is not that bad for them.
yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like that proposal. Yeah. Um, I just find it. We're getting back to the part about having black male teachers. The last superintendent of Horry County, we had a major discussion with him at one of the churches, and I think that it included the local NAACP. And he attended. The superintendent, I think he's passed by now, I believe. But we asked him to explore, and he talked about it. He said that he'll go back and assess it himself. That explore affirmative action for male teachers. Okay.
Hmm.
We didn't hear any more about that, but I thought I'd bring it up just to let people know
Yeah.
that how great the issue was. You know, he didn't decline it. He just said that's something that should be explored.
Particularly black male teachers.
Right,
I
right. That's who we were
I
focusing
wish
on. Yeah.
I wish they could be more. Yeah.
So this incoming or the new superintendent hopefully can echo the same thing. You know, I don't know what the statistics are now. I don't know how many black male teachers there are now in Horry County, but I think it's a national issue.
It's a national. I've looked at the nation and I looked at Horry County, South Carolina, Horry County. They all kind of mirror each other. They all
Yeah.
right across the nation.
Okay.
Particularly,
I think it's important as we look at even the need to recruit more male teachers, black male teachers. I think it's really more about the intentional practice of making sure that we have diversity in the classrooms from the standpoint of African American or black teachers, but also Hispanic teachers, or at least teachers who can connect with the Hispanic community. Teachers who are bilingual and can actually connect with students who are Hispanic or Latino in that way as well. So, I think the overarching question, because what we're trying to get to tonight, basically is to develop a list of questions that people can, ask or provide this search firm during the public forum. One of the questions should be, what can the superintendent or school district do to attract and recruit more teachers of color and bilingual teachers who can connect with students in ways that we don't traditionally see in Horry County. And, the landscape of Horry County is changing, but also the cultural landscape, not just the environmental landscape, the cultural landscape. And so it's important that we have teachers who can connect on that level, but also that students are being exposed to that. Once upon a time, you had the option to take your French classes, your Spanish classes, or whatever. I don't know what that looks like now in the classroom, but you would think that as we've evolved and seen that, immigration is more and more of a conversation in our communities and in our society, that there's, that some things are happening so that people can connect. And I think that that's where a lot of the issues come into play in communities, when we can't communicate with one another because of language barriers and things like that. And so, there's at least three good questions that, what are the, strategic plans to improve student performance? How can schools improve ways to engage parents? And I would say beyond the regular school hours, and, even asking that particular question is going to take some creativity, because teachers are already stretched, administrators are stretched, and now you're asking them to do something beyond school hours, where I think that sometimes, those are the things that are necessary. And even if it's just outreach via email, text, or whatever, there's got to be something that can be done in order to bridge those communication gaps, and there's, the power schools and other platforms that our school districts use to connect with parents. But that means that we're assuming that every parent has access and can get, into those platforms, or understands how to even utilize those platforms. So definitely some things that need to be thought about in terms of how to improve ways to engage parents in the education process. And then, I think that as we talk about all of the aspects of what a school environment is like, we cannot dismiss the fact that school violence is a big issue. We hear about it all the time in the news, and whether it's a threat or an actual act of violence, school violence is a big deal. And so, even just from the standpoint of this conversation, I would think that any parent, or even the students or the community at large, would want to know, how will the new school superintendent ensure that our children are safe in the school? So, what are some thoughts that you have about school safety based on things that you've heard, or, the latest reports, or even, just conversations that are happening across the country and with communities, especially in light of the fact that we just recently had several incidents to happen with school shootings and things of that nature, not necessarily in Horry County, but these things are happening everywhere, and we certainly aren't exempt. So what are your thoughts on school safety? Do you have any data that points to the number of incidents, or the rise or decline in incidents at all?
I don't have any form of data, no more than what I've read, and you read the same thing, that it has increased. And I think looking at Horry County, it seems they might be headed in the right direction with how they are trying to position a resource to avoid or prevent these types of incidents. They seem to be probably better than some school systems in that line, but I haven't seen any, have not put together, did any research on the numbers myself. No.
I think that would be an interesting study.
Yeah, Dave, have you ventured to any charter schools? Have you done any statistics on Well, let's just start with the value of a charter school.
I don't have. I did some reports on that a few years ago. I'd have to go back and look at it. Um, uh, looked at some of the charter schools in like South Carolina. I think I looked at some in Horry County also, but I'd have to go back and pull that up to take a look at it to see how. Uh, One of the things I did notice that, if I can recall, the performance level was not that much better, and the few that I looked at, charter schools. Yeah.
So I'm wondering. I'm trying to attach that to the superintendent. I don't know. Is that under his jurisdiction? The superintendent of education, April, the charter schools.
They are
Not
data.
me. Go ahead. You asking me, Brother Edward?
Either of you.
Yeah, you can pull the data is posted on Excel spreadsheets in the State Department of Education.
Right.
I looked at just kind of cursory again. Looked at it a few years ago for 2024. I just cursory looked through yesterday after I spoke to April through the 2024 data and did some calculations on that to see if African American students had rebounded from pre-COVID situation, and they have very well with ELA. And one of the things that this would be something we could ask now to Horry County schools folks: why there's such big disparity in the ELA and versus the math since COVID? This just seems like the math people are not coming back fast. They are slow, still way behind. And those two, I consider those. If you can master those, I just tell my guys when they were young in the middle school, elementary, if you can master your basic math and English, you'll be okay. You'll do well in most everything else. But you got to master that first along the way, and it works.
Yeah,
It's true.
that's true. That's true.
It could be that there's a lack of math teachers. I don't know. I have to think that, it all kind of correlates. If, you don't, I don't know how many classrooms in Horry County actually have teachers who are teaching more than one subject. There could just be a lack of capacity,
Yeah.
or even supplemental assistance for students, because it's one thing to sit in the classroom and try to learn and you've got everything else going on around you. It's another thing to get that reinforcement after you leave that class. And once upon a time we always had homework. I don't even know if students have homework anymore, and if they do have homework, there's the likelihood that there's no one at home to help them with their homework. So you're right. There may hopefully there's a deeper dive into the disparities between the performance levels in math versus ELA, but and I think that is a definitely a valid question that needs to be asked. So yeah.
Is it within the realm of a superintendent candidate to ask? Could they explore, or can they potentially see a value in having school year round?
Yeah, I mean, from a personal perspective, I don't think that by much. Um, it I don't know. I think quality. I've always valued quality over time. It could be more time. I don't know. Kids seem to be burned out as it is. They when the moment the bell rang, from my experience with the sub, it was like nonstop all day long. And I don't know. I haven't seen any correlation, at least in South Carolina, between some of the schools that go through the summer or longer. It just not enough I've seen of that.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a a pot full of information here tonight, and thanks to Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
most welcome.
providing us this information that hopefully people can use some of your data to go back and see what improvements they'd like to explore. Especially if the educational community is looking tonight and viewing tonight that they want to see what they can explore to make the system better, the local system better. Anyway, and at least that's what I would do. But who knows? But anyway,
I just hope that parents will take advantage of these opportunities to attend the public forums, and they're happening again September 24th to the 26th, and you can go to the Horry County Schools Facebook page, as a matter of fact, or probably their website to get more information about the actual forums. And they said there's no RSVP required. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of information on the Horry County Schools website. I'm gonna pull this up real quick so that everyone can see.
A lot of stuff. Always has been a lot.
And right. And so here is an opportunity for you to lift your voices, to ask questions, to just put everything on the table as far as what you need for your students. And if you visit the Horry County Schools website, which is horrycountyschools.net, you'll see more information about the search, and also there's an online stakeholder survey. And I love that it's available in several languages, which of course speaks to probably the diversity of our community, and that's highly important. They thought of everything with that. The locations of the community forums, they will have one at, there's going to be on the 24th, Green Sea Floyd's Middle and High School Community Room, Myrtle Beach Middle School Cafeteria, and Whittemore Park Middle School Auditorium. Those schools will have their community forums on September 24th at 6 p.m. And then on the 25th, Ocean Bay Middle School, North Myrtle Beach Middle, and St. James Middle School. All of that's happening on September 25th at 6 p.m. And on the 26th, Aner Middle School, Loris Middle School, and Socastee Middle School will have community forums at that time. There's also a timeline that pretty much outlines everything in this process as far as what's taking place. So at this point, we are in September, actually about to be in October. It's incredible. I think we blinked and September is like gone. But in July, August is when they conducted the individual Board of Education member interviews. And then there was a planning meeting in August, finalizing the information to the superintendent announcement, posting of the announcement. Now we're in September, where they're going to share stakeholder surveys and conduct focus groups and community forums to get that input. October, the BWP associates will provide the superintendent search update to the Board of Education or at the Board of Education meeting. And then November 10th is the deadline for all application materials. So it's a pretty aggressive timeline in that they appear to be doing something every month leading up to the actual selection of a candidate. By early December, the search firm will present the top candidates to the Board of Education in closed sessions and discuss the candidates to be interviewed. Interviews will take place first and second round in early December. And then the Board of Education will actually go into closed session and make their announcement of the superintendent just before Christmas. The new superintendent will begin February 2025. And so, again, pretty aggressive that we will have a new superintendent by February 2025. Seems like a long time away, but I promise you, we'll blink, and guess what? It'll be February or whatever. So, Mr. Dave, we just want to thank you for joining us tonight to share the information that you have, to just, have a nice little conversation about what's needed in Horry County. And we hope that the interview process goes well and that Horry County is successful in finding the next school superintendent, one who will address all of the questions that we brought up tonight and other questions that I'm sure we could not answer even tonight. But it's important that the community shows up. So you got to show up to at least one of these forums and be a part of the process. So thank you again for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe the both of you or all of us should know this, and we're going to get off the air right now, but it was conveyed that at the city council meeting yesterday, and correct me if I'm wrong, from Ms. Priscilla Fuller, indicated that they passed the hate crimes bill ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ordinance that, and we're going to know a lot more from her because she attended it and she's going to report on it, and she's always does a good job.
Awesome.
So, yeah, she's
awesome.
going to report on it, so we'll find a whole lot more with it, and probably some opinions also. Okay, so just want to let everybody know that.
Cool.
You'll check it out in the World Community Magazine, the next issue.
Thank you.
So is Miss Priscilla going to be on the next show to talk about it?
You know something? I don't know. I don't know about that. Yeah.
We have to see what we can do about that.
Let's see
Always.
what we can do about that.
Yeah, see what we can do about that. But
That's interesting.
anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so. Well, we just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And please share this broadcast. The replay is available on wcmagazine.net. It will be available for at least the next week. And then after that, you can find it on our YouTube channel, which is WCM Live. And I think it's still Talk Radio, but of course, we're not on the radio. We are online on the internet, been here since COVID, and it's been a great platform. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to those who joined us tonight. Some new names I've never seen before. I got to give a special shout out to my Sugar Hill sister, Melinda Bowens. We used to call her Peaches when we were growing up. Peaches, I'm so glad that you joined in tonight. And of course, Priscilla Fuller, you know, I think she heard the nudge about being on next week's show. And anyone else who's joined in who did not comment or post a question or whatever, we know you're watching, and we hope that you pass this information along. So thank you all again, and we will see you next week, Brother Edward. We'll be here next week. Yes.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Everyone take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook.